Yes, guys. Hope everyone is doing well. How's everyone's day so far? I'm just getting some creatine down me before the markets. Bit of creatine, IV pack, and then we're going to mark out the key levels for today and see what we're looking to expect. So far this week, we've had one break-even trade and one winning trade, so we're currently up 2R on the week. That's a good question. How many are you looking for per month? Well, I average around 4 to 8R per month, and sometimes we have these months which are outlier months and we produce a 16R or 20R in a month where we have a bunch of crazy weeks back to back. And then when I have a losing month, it tends to be negative 2 or 3R, where I would lose actually 2 or 3 trades on the month, and that happens once per out of the 12 months, right? So 11 out of 12 of the months, I produce usually a 4 to 6R result. And then we have some months which are like August, for example, the month that just went a couple months ago. That was my biggest month this year. And I closed it, I believe, around 17R on the month. Something crazy, right? And I submitted a payout inside of that month, which hit my record for the year so far, which was amazing. That was when I was over in Houston, actually. And then the month of September, I was visiting family, did not have my trading set up out or anything. I was in the UK and I had around 2 to 3 weeks away from price action. And you know what? I seen people on social media struggling with that month, and that was just a coincidence that I actually chose not to trade, and then it appeared to not be the best set of price action. Now, I don't know how I would have performed because I haven't backtested it, but from what I've seen on social media, it wasn't looking too good. So, the month of October so far, I would need to calculate how much I'm up, but I'm up comfortably from last week. And then also this week is 2R results. So we'll see what we get today and also tomorrow as well. And we will close off this week. Even though this week, as far as news, has not really been in our favour, as far as Jerome Powell speaking straight after the macro, which we experienced this week. And then we also had the government shutdown affecting all of the news events this week, where they have been skipped, all the red folder news events. So we will see how we approach towards the end of this week. Yeah, August was great. September wasn't fun. Yeah, that's what a lot of people experienced, I'm pretty sure. August was absolutely insane, you know. It was a 7 or 8 trade win streak in a row. I took around 1 to 2 losses that month and around 10 plus wins. So it put me up over 16R in the month. Still trying to clear this fucking illness. One sec. Let me take a garlic tablet and get rid of this shit. Did I just hop on the live? Absolutely. We start live every single day at 9:20 a.m. New York local time, and I mark out my levels at 9:20, which I haven't done just yet, but I'm about to do it now. Nah, it's only a tablet. It's not actually garlic. Well, it is garlic. It's obviously it's inside of a capsule. You know what I mean? And it's the actual like liquid, concentrated from the garlic. I wouldn't actually eat that shit. You know what I mean? Because then your breath's gonna be the worst. All right, guys. So let's start by marking out the key levels on the 15-minute time frame, and we can see between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. as of now that we will have a set of London lows. We just need to select the right one, which would be this one. So it has to be a 15-minute swing lower high inside of that session. So we can mark this out, and then make sure whatever you mark out on NQ, you've got to mark this out on ES as well and paste it over. And guys, if you have any questions, you know, especially when we are before the macros, that's the best time to ask them as well, because it allows me to dedicate some time to your question and make sure everyone thoroughly understands it. So that's always the best time to ask. Alright, cool. So we've got that out on ES as well. Same level. As you can see here, this would be a local 15-minute high that was just created recently within the last 45 minutes. So you can mark this as, it's still buy-side liquidity, but I just like to kind of let myself know that it's not a major point. So I mark it as minor. And then we can paste this to ES as well. Alright, cool. So now we're going to zoom out into Asia, which is from 8 PM. So this would be Asia lows, right? Mark out Asia lows. Asia lows. We can paste this over on ES as well. Same correlated lows not been taken out. Because sometimes, you know, if we mark Asia on NQ, ES has already taken this low, and then Asia would be this low because of an SMT, but we don't have that in that case. So as far as trading on Thursday, we're now going to zoom out a little bit more and go over to Wednesday. So assuming this is Wednesday's high, which it is, it's going to be previous day highs. So we're going to look to mark this out as well. And then this is likely, yeah, previous day low. So we are currently in the mix of some very high probability liquidity levels. Previous day low, previous day high, London, Asia lows, which is perfect and very good to see. So as far as bias, that's what we get onto in a second. So I'm going to look at my bias around the New York Open and then, you know, redo the whole thing at 9:40. That's generically what I do in majority of cases. You can be lazy with it and do your bias completely at 9:40, but I like to have that kind of thought process and approach, or some sort of expectation for the AM session, right? So previous day low, previous day high, we've got that minor level. Also going to mark out this low here as well, because this is going to be minor sell side, and price is either going to draw to the high or the low as of this point. At the New York Open, we'd see manipulation below this low or the high, most likely in majority of cases. And then I'm just going to paste this over to ES as well. Let me turn that laptop down. Okay, so you can see ES took out that minor sell side. We got a bullish SMT on NQ just prior to the open. Alright, so now we can get into bias. We've marked out all of the key levels. I'm just going to put this on the 30-minute time frame, so it gives it a little bit more room. I'm just going to take a screenshot so you guys get a visual view inside of the AM prep channel. So this is where the volatility will step in, the New York Open. Session lows are swing lows, correct? Not just the lowest point of the session started. Yeah, that's correct. So we don't just look on the 1 minute time frame for the lowest point inside of London. I look for an actual prominent swing low created on the 15-minute time frame. So I mark out all of my levels on the 15 and ensure that it's some sort of swing high or low created on the 15-minute rather than just a 1 minute swing high or low inside of the London session, right? So that's how I approach to marking out the levels. So I'm just going to post this inside of the AM prep. Alright, cool. So let's take a look at the bias for today. So obviously by looking at the daily is going to be bearish off the bat, trading out of that daily bearish gap. So it draws lower. The 4 hour is going to be bearish, and the hourly is likely going to be bearish as well, because trading out of a hourly, so yeah, there's no hourly bullish imbalance, just order block. And then if we look at the hourly to the left, the hourly is bearish. So right now these time frames going up towards 940 are likely not going to change at all. So we already have a bearish bias formed. So same approach as yesterday, we have a sweep of minor buy side, but then also we have that uncorrelated first AM kind of start to things where ES is taking sell side and NQ is taking buy side. Not really what we want to be seeing. It's not a problem. Price action usually clears itself up naturally. And then the 15-minute. Let's see. So the 15-minute got inversed. So the 15 is bearish, right? Because we inversed the bullish gap, so it's bearish towards the next lower bullish gap. And we can't take these bullish gaps. They've been inversed. We can only take this bullish gap, but it's not been traded into or met the draw. And then as far as bias towards the left as well, that we are trading out of a 15-minute bearish gap. So the 15 is also going to be bearish here in this case. So it has two bearish confluences on the 15 with the inverse and also trading out of an imbalance to the left. So either way, it would be bearish. And then if we look at the 5-minute time frame, you can see we was trading out of a 5-minute bullish gap. However, it's been inversed. This candle's still open. We'll take this as a bearish bias on the 5-minute. And then if we look to the left at this bullish imbalance, we haven't actually traded into it after inversing the gap. So for example, inversing that 5-minute bullish gap would mean bearish until the next bullish gap or low. And this bullish gap never got met. Therefore, we never met the draw. So the 5-minute is still going to be bearish regardless of what's happening to the left. So that's 100% bearish bias, which is good to see. Alright. All's looking good. So we've marked out the levels. We've got a bearish bias, and then the next step, obviously with that sweep of liquidity, is that we look for a clean model inside of the first day macro. So we could actually see if ES starts to push higher and take out, say, minor buy side, or even take out just one of these highs, we still would have an SMT bearish on ES, but we would like to see that ES pushes higher slightly to even take out this short-term high, so then we can look for an opportunity for shorts there. Because for example, this low for price, if I'm taking a short on NQ to target minor sell side, but it's already been taken on ES, that's not a trade that I want to take, because essentially the TP has already been hit before the trade's even, begun. So essentially you don't take the trade, you've already been TP'd. So that would be obviously an SMT completely against the trade. Now, I seen a comment the other day on social media, right? I think it was one of my posts. And someone said about the trade yesterday that there was an SMT against the trade, right? So yes, there was an SMT against the trade and with the trade. Now, I only pay attention to SMTs which are against the trade if it's the objective. So for example, if I'm taking a short now, if there was a model here to take shorts, I would look to target minor sell side, as I know my stop placement towards TP would give a rough 2-to-1 towards that low, right? However, this low's already been taken as an objective for a trade. ES already took it. So then that's an SMT that I pay attention to, and it stops me from taking the trade, if that makes sense. So for example, if asset already takes objective on ES, then I don't take it on NQ. Hopefully that makes sense. So now, there's not much for us to do apart from wait for this first day in macro. Mark the New York Open, absolutely. So that 9:30 open low is a point of liquidity for price, and you'd like to mark that out. ES, on the other hand, has already taken it, so there is a bullish SMT here on NQ. So NQ today is the stronger asset from both this low and also the New York Open low here as well. It's the stronger asset, but we have a full bearish bias, so I'm not looking for longs at all. New York Open low. It's just good to mark out these areas in price, because potentially we might look to target this area if we was to take a short, say later inside of this macro, or even the second or third macro. His minor sell side is also data lows, No, data lows is from obviously a news event at 8:30, 9:45, 10 a.m. and it's the wick on the 1 minute high and the low of the news that comes out at 8:30, and you'd mark that as data highs and lows. So it's essentially just news high and lows. Data, when news comes out, that's a high probability liquidity point, and it's not minor, it's a major point of liquidity. So for example, if we had news at 10 a.m. today, then we would mark out the high and low of that 1 minute candle and use it as a point of liquidity, or even a target if there is a current trade already presented at news. So there's been cases when news has come out at 10 a.m, it's wicked down and caused a displacement, right? A very big wick lower. I've marked out data lows. That same candle at 10 a.m. created a bearish gap. The model was already in place. Bearish buy, sweep of buy side, correlated on both NQ and ES. And then I took the short and targeted the same 1 minute fair value gap that I took, the same candle low for data lows for a 2-to-1. I took that a few months ago. So yeah, data highs and data lows, high probability point to mark out. It's good to see majority of the original members on Lifetime to join back. Obviously, I got you guys to send a message to me on Telegram, and I got that all sorted to get everyone back inside of the group as usual. It's good to see everyone back. Let me just double check Forex Factory. Alright, here we go. We got Casper SMC sent a voice message. Let's see what he's saying.
Yeah, man, I'm in Tennessee, but it's funny, like, I also want to be in Miami to have more motion, bro. So it's like the grass is always greener, but I do like it up here, too. I think I would always have a spot in both.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, to be honest, but the thing is, guys, with Miami, you know, it's nice to come down to Miami, but it does get a little bit hectic, don't you think? Down in Miami, and it's a bit repetitive. Let's go down to Brickell, and let's go down to South Beach. You know, it's good to get away from it sometimes. Take a few months break, lock the car up, and then get back on business when we get back. But you know, I find Miami is sometimes a little bit too much, a little bit too hectic, and everyone there is a little bit fake. You know what I mean? Lived in Miami for 13 years. Now you moved to Italy. I think Italy's a beautiful place. You know what I mean? Great food, great people. You know, part of my family's Italian as well, so you know, I do love Italy. It's a beautiful place. You can see here, obviously, price has taken the New York Open low, and then it's obviously looking to displace higher as of now. We have a full bearish bias, guys, and potentially it might have changed on the 5 minute or the 15, but our bias is still bearish completely, which you can see the 5 minute did shift bullish, which you can see there. So we can change that to bullish, and the 15 potentially shifted as well. No, it didn't. No, 15 still bearish, which you can see there. But either way, we still are running a full bearish bias, and no longs here would be valid at all. Where are you now? I'm currently over in Thailand at the moment. I actually came to visit a friend because he bought a new bike, and he thought he could test me, so you know, I came for a little race, and then I found myself to stay here for a little bit. Quite like it here, actually. It's peaceful, it's tranquil, you know, I can focus. And then shortly I will head back over to the US. But the reason why I'm over this part of the world at the moment, I did buy a new apartment over in Dubai, so I came over here to visit and take a look. And also, there's a concert. I've never been to a concert in my life. Never in my life. I think, you know, they're extremely gay, dancing, standing there. And a lot of people, the concerts from where I'm from in the UK, it's full of people doing drugs and whatnot, you know. So I've never been into doing anything like that. And I've never been into really getting blackout drunk. You know, got blackout drunk many times, but it's not really my thing to dance in a festival and get drunk with a bunch of tramps, you know, who don't really have any sort of ambition, or they're all a bunch of builders, you know. I have nothing against people who do building and all that other stuff, but I don't want to mingle with people that obviously are not going to improve you as a person, you know. And those type of people, they seriously don't improve you as a person. They end up selling drugs and end up in jail, you know. A lot of people that I knew from the UK, they are either in jail or they are carpenters or builders, right? So that's the life, you know. And I am going to a concert. Matter of fact, got off topic there, but I am going to a concert in Abu Dhabi, and I've got VIP tickets with my brother over in Dubai, who runs the real estate section of this Discord, and we're going on stage with Travis Scott. So that's going to be pretty mad. So yeah, on stage with Travis Scott and someone else like Flow Rider, or I don't know who it was, but yeah, we're going on stage in Abu Dhabi. He's on tour apparently in China and India at the moment, so when he gets to Abu Dhabi, we'll be going on stage with that. And also we'll look to secure another off-plan project shortly as well, potentially in November. So it'll be interesting. You talked about Dubai real estate a bit yesterday. Could you go into the numbers? Yeah, so basically if you look on this Discord and scroll to the bottom, there is the real estate section, and I've done quite a bit of work to it, where I've included the ins and outs and understanding behind what is an off-plan project, and also what is the difference between, you know, off-plan and purchasing an apartment that's already been built. So I've included all of that. I've also included the WhatsApp number inside of there as well of my brother in Dubai, who will take care of you when you are ready and payment ready to go on the full process of getting an apartment off-plan, or even a project that's already been built. Then hit him up on WhatsApp and he will take care of you and make sure that you make the most amount of money possible. And then also with the sales contracts as well and costing, so you don't have to text him and ask how much and what type of projects are there. I've included some projects in there, both, well, they're all off-plan at the moment, and then also the payment plans that are inside of the real estate section to purchase the condo or villa, etc., penthouse, whatever. Yeah, I think it'll be quite interesting. I mean, to go to the concert, I'm not really too excited. I think I'm just more excited to see the people who are there and on stage. I don't really listen to Travis Scott too much. I only ever listen to the mix with Pop Smoke and Travis Scott when they dropped that song back in like 2020, but I don't really listen to that too much. I much prefer to watch UFC or like fighting or something, you know. It's a lot more interesting. So what you can see here, guys, obviously we have swept previous day high, and there is a bearish SMT on ES as previous day high on ES has not been taken. This is good to see, as ES has actually come up and still taken some sort of buy side. So that's exactly what we like to see. That's perfect. Now, the thing is, with NQ here, it can't actually displace lower. So what it needs to do is create some sort of order block that it can inverse and then actually have a shift in structure, because as of now there isn't actually any model that can come back in place. So preferably what I would like to see here is price accumulate slightly, return back to this short-term high, take it out, and then give us some sort of model there which we can take. But right now there's not anything that we can look to take here. Even on the ES, there's no order block that could be inverse to be a mitigation or a breaker block, right? So no trades so far, and bias currently stands as the 5 minute is likely just shifted to neutral, which it has. So you see how the 5 minute, right, this is how we stay on top, is that the 5 minute trades lower into the bullish gap, turns bullish, price trades higher, intraday bullish, takes out the high. When we take out the high, it shifts neutral. And then if we look to the left, there's no bearish gaps here on the 5 that we can trade out of. If we look all the way to the left, we look at this point here, you can see that's an entry to a 5 minute bearish gap, which price traded into, right? So the 5 minute is bearish. Very, very obvious, which you can see. So 5 minute goes from bullish to bearish. This is why determining a bias at the New York Open and sticking to it throughout the whole macro just does not make any sense, and you're going to be led to having the wrong bias pretty much every single time, because bias is changing. If price action is not moving, then yes, your bias can stay the same. But price action is always volatile and moving, especially just after in the first day macro at the New York Open. Your bias is going to change a lot, you know. So obviously this would be a bearish order block being put in place with this candle to close and engulf. It doesn't mean that we can take a trade here. There's no displacement and there's no inverse of a bullish order block. Is an inverse of a fair value gap after a sweep not valid? No. I mean, that in itself is not a model. That would just be more of a pattern based model. Yes, we did have a sweep of liquidity and we have a bearish bias, but it doesn't mean that you can go ahead and just take a trade just because we inverse a 1 minute gap. You know, we don't have any shift in market structure. We've not inversed any sort of bullish PD raise to confirm that price is actually shifted into a bearish structure, right? We're just inversing a 1 minute bullish gap. Now, what type of model is that? I know it's a generic question that you've asked. I'm not trying to put it down, but I'm trying to give my point of view and a realistic approach to how that does not make any sense. Let me get some more of this creatine down. I updated my phone last night to iOS 26 or whatever it is now. And I don't know what you guys think about it, but I think it's the worst update I think I've ever made. I've had some bad updates in the past, right? This is probably the worst. I don't know, everything's changed. Everything just looks weird, like bubbles. Bubbles on my screen. I might just, you know what I mean? I might move and get Android at this point. Because I picked up a few other phones the other day, and it almost seems like the Android phones are way more advanced now compared to these iPhones, you know? The update is awful. I actually want to de-update. How do I de-update? I might just reset this phone. I think the best phone Apple made was the iPhone 11 Pro Max. I think the 11 Pro Max was the best phone they ever made. Obviously the camera's improved since then, but the actual feel and the thinness was the best. It had round corners, right? It was so comfortable to hold. It was so easy to type. Everything was, you know, clean on that phone. And then after that, they made all the phones all boxy, heavy, like a brick. Yeah, so as of now, guys, there isn't any trades that we can take. So there's nothing to do here as of now. You could say price is accumulating, but it's still essentially expanding. Accumulation is when it goes from a wide range and it gets smaller, right? So you could call it like a wedge. Accumulation would be this way, where price accumulates smaller, but is getting more volatile as we speak. But there's still obviously nothing to take. You can't downgrade iOS. That's a shame. I don't really know why they always got to keep, you know, updating things. You know, if the model works, why change it? Got to add more spyware, etc. Yeah, I guess that's probably what they have to do, you know. But every phone's pretty much the same. You know, I seen one person the other day inside of the Apple store when I was picking up something there, right? And he was looking at the 17. He couldn't believe his eyes, you know. He was testing out the camera. He's like, oh, the camera's so good, and all this stuff, you know. And it's like, it's the same shit as last year. Your face don't look any different, mate. You still can't get any women, you know. There's still no difference, no changes at all. They've just extended the back camera across. There is relatively the same phone, you know. If you're so obsessed about getting a better camera, why don't you go buy a camera from the camera store opposite, you know. Go get yourself an actual camera, buddy. That's what I did. I was sick of these iPhone cameras, so I went to the store in Miami and I bought the best camera they had. People that know about cameras, I got the Sony FX3 cinema line with a 2490 lens, something like that. Milo, if the market structure shift too big for stop loss. Yeah, so there's two ways that you go about it. If you have a shift in market structure that is obviously too big and your stop loss placement is not valid, you either seek the fair value gap which is higher, or you seek, if it's just one fair value gap, so a huge fair value gap with an unvalid stop placement, say of 50 points, then yes, you can use the fib retracement of that gap, find 50% and see if you get an entry. You either get an entry or you don't. So let me also see, is that you either seek 50% entry, you either take a higher point of entry, or you can take the trade with half position size. So you can still run a 60 handle stop and target 120 points, but it must be a trade that's actually realistic, because some days 120 points is going to look like the whole daily move, as I've explained previously. And then on other days in March, 120 points was almost one minute candle. So it very much does vary depending on volatility on that current day. 120 points today is not really that much, and is a realistic approach, really, with a 60 handle stop. It's pretty realistic. Yeah, obviously there is nothing that you would want to take here. Yesterday we took 40 points, the market was down 400. Yeah, it's similar to obviously last week, isn't it? When I took a short and I obviously took my 2-to-1, made 50 something on that. And then someone commented, they said, bro, imagine if you should have held. Yeah, bro, imagine if, a bomb hit your fucking balcony whilst you was trading, How are you able to predict whether the Nasdaq's going to run 400-500 points? So when we stick to trading one model and we consistently turn up each day and we take the same trade, we target the same risk to reward, we have a consistent win rate. Yes, the market can drop 500 or 1,000 points after the trade, but coulda, shoulda, woulda never gets anyone anywhere in life. It's like, bro, I could have bought Bitcoin back in 2012 when I was 6 years old, but you didn't. So, you missed it. What are you going to do now? What's the future for yourself? Some nice price action today. Lovely stuff. Thank you, Trump. So, obviously, as of now, this is actually an accumulation period. We're going to look between this low and this high for manipulation, preferably of the high, going into the end of this first day of macro, or even the second day of macro. And then from that point, after an accumulation period, usually price after manipulation will then actually start to aggressively distribute in the direction. So we'll see. Yeah, I was thinking also with that vlog that I just dropped on YouTube, I think I've been experiencing, because I don't really know how to use this camera, right? And I've had a few people filming me with the camera, and then I've held it myself. It weighs an absolute ton. So you do get quite a bit of a bicep pump whilst you're filming yourself. But I will say, I attached the DJI mic to the top of the camera, and someone commented, they said, get a mic, bro. It's like, bro, I bought the best possible mic that you can get for day to day walking around in public, unless I walk around like a BBC interviewer with some massive long stick, so that mic, it seems to, the issue that I've had is that it sides on the left ear, so the audio comes out left ear but right ear doesn't come out. So I think I would have to get the editor to make sure that the audio is changed inside of DaVinci Resolve, so that it's not one-sided, it's both-sided. I think that was the issue. But, I dropped the vlog either way. People are just going to have to get used to watching the vlog with a left AirPod, Got Got to go into the mic settings on mono. Oh, that's it. Yeah. I think that's what I done before, because I was running 2 mics and I had to at one point have it on left and right because I had 2 mics, but now I've only got 1, so I lost the other one. When I got arrested in Houston because they thought I stole my own car, right, I lost the mic from that day. I think they seized it, they took it. That was that, but I've got 1 left. So yeah, I need to go into the mic settings. Yeah, that's right. DJI mic 2 or 3? Well, let me check. Don't really know. Comes in like some grey box. Right, let me read the back of this. This price section's quite boring, so there's not really anything. It's a DJI mic 2 charging case, so I guess it's the DJI mic 2. Yeah. What, is the 3 better? Should I buy it? What's the difference? Free is smaller and lighter. Okay. I have to grab it. Houston. It is, isn't it? Houston is just one concrete slab, and it's very, very hot, humid, and there's nothing to do. What do you guys do in Houston? You know, tell me, what do you do in Houston? Because the only thing I was doing was going to the gym. They have a very, very good gym there. I think one of the best gyms I've been to in this world. It's called Alpha Land Gym. I absolutely loved it. It was a great gym, but that's the only thing I did there. Apart from, you know, racing the Rolls Royce around town and going gym, I wasn't really doing anything else. And I found one restaurant spot where, you know, we smoked some shisha, but no cigar bars or anything like that. Yeah, I think Houston's a bit of a shithole. I'll be honest. You know, it's not my cup of tea, to be honest. Miami is the best part of the US, I think. LA's going downhill. I haven't been to an LA in about a year and a half, but last time I went there, it was full of drugs, and it was almost like the city died. So I don't think I'll go back there. New York, when I went there a couple of weeks ago, did some shopping, stayed in a beautiful hotel, but New York seems to be a bit dirty, and it's got the same issue with just, it's falling apart. You know, New York kind of stinks as well, so I don't think I'll be going back there for a while. Miami's great. Miami is where everything's at, and that's why it's getting so busy there, because everyone knows that's the best spot in the US. Come to Dallas. Well, I've not been to Dallas, so I can't really say anything about it. I'm going to have to visit. I'm going to have to take a look around, you know. What's the other one? You got Dallas, Houston, and it's another one. Austin. Yeah, Austin. That's it. People were telling me that Austin's good, but I looked it up and apparently it's the gay capital of Texas, so I didn't go. Is that true? Seemed to have a lot of like rivers and going through it. It almost looked a little bit like an old village. But everyone says Austin's nice, so it's like I probably should take a look. But to be honest, the biggest thing for me, obviously Texas is great in many locations, is the time zone. The time zone at 8:30 a.m. market open is just not for me, to be honest. And then the further you go to LA and you start waking up at 6:30 a.m. with some crusty eyes, trying to scramble your way out of, get into the chair. It's not for me, to be honest. You know, I made a lot of money in Houston, and you know, the market's done me well during Houston. I had a very big win streak. But it doesn't matter. The way I perform is disregard, because I perform the same. Doesn't matter where I am in the world. But I much prefer a later time zone, and hence why I'm currently in Thailand. And then Dubai has, to me, the best time zone in the world, where you start trading around 5:30 p.m. I believe, and you finish around 8:30, 9:30 p.m. And then it's not too late where you can still go get a meal, and all the restaurants have closed. You know, it's just perfect. So maybe the next purchase would be a villa on the Palm. I very much like the villa which the two brothers have. I don't know. I forgot what their name is. They're from the Netherlands though. But yeah, that's it. The Anoha brothers. Yeah, that's it. I see the villa they have, and it's kind of inspired me. I think I will look at getting one of those villas as well with that time zone. I think that's perfect. What's the story with getting arrested and stealing your own car? Yeah, let's tell the story whilst the price action's accumulating and not too much is happening. So basically what happened is that when I was in Miami, I stayed in the Airbnb for the last night because tenants moved into my apartment, so I wasn't going to stay there, and they moved in, so I, on the last night, stayed in Airbnb. I left the car and parked it in the underground garage, which was for the Airbnb unit, and I parked it in a random space because I thought it was just a car park. I didn't realise that it was designated for, some lady to park there. So I parked my car there. I go back the next morning, and the Cullinan's gone. So I was like, okay, it's either been stolen or it's been towed. And then I realised it got towed after I spoke to the people there. So I got in an Uber and I went to the tow company that was listed for the car park. And when I pulled up, I couldn't really find the place. I went to almost looked abandoned, like scrap yards. And I was like, where's my car? I thought I actually got scrapped. And I know there's a few bad towing car companies in Miami. There's quite a few actually, that dismantle your car and then give it to you back, and everything looks fine, but really they've taken some things away from the car, right? So long story short, what happened is I seen my car. It was parked in the towing place and all was good. I seen the car. I still had the key by this point, so I slept with the key, right? I see the car, and the gate for the actual towing car company is open. So it's an open gate, and there's a number. So I call the number. I say on the voicemail, look, you still have my car. I want someone to come down so I can pay. It was around $300. I wanted to pay so I can take my car. No, and these people running a business did not choose to, answer the phone to me. So with them not answering the phone, I decided to just get in my car and drive out of the gate. So that's what I did. I took my car back and just drove out of the gate. And what I assumed is that they would call me back and say, why have you took the car? Or call the number back that they had about 10 missed calls from, and then say, you need to make this payment. But they didn't call me back, and they reported it to the police as unauthorized release of my own car. And then they put a tag on the plate as a stolen Rolls Royce, right? And then as I was driving out, I drove through Alabama. Got onto the I-10 in Texas, right? And as I was coming through Texas, then a police car goes behind me and just does a general check down the I-10 because it's a purple Cullinan. Why wouldn't you check it, right? That, especially down that road as well. So apparently a crazy road. And then they put their lights on because there's a tag on the plate. And then this one car, they're using their walkie-talkie, their amplifier where they can speak to you whilst you're driving, So they were speaking to me on that, saying, pull over on the side of the motorway or pull over on the gas station on the right in the Shell station. So I chose the Shell station and pulled up there. And then about 5-6 cars are going around the car thinking it's obviously stolen, thinking that, I stole the car. They don't know that I'm obviously the owner of the car. And then left, right and centre, there is Call of Duty setups everywhere. Lasers, MP4s, whatever you call them. Machine guns, the lot. I think they even had a turret gun at the car at one point as well. So they're all set up and everything. Only takes one bullet to kill me. You don't need about 50 men just to kill me. You know what I mean? So I don't know what their purpose was. AR-15s. That's exactly what they had. So I got out of the car. Threw the key on the floor, whatever. Scratched my own key, and then they arrested me and then sent me to jail. And I was in jail for 3 days for it. I paid the towing car company double and I paid them. I sent them like 1,000 to make sure that everything was good. They dropped the tag and everything. They dropped everything. But the whole biggest main issue that I had is that I had to spend 3 days in a US jail. About 30 people inside of one dormitory, right? And I've gone from eating, Michelin star restaurant food to then going not even back to when I was in the warehouse. This was like, we're talking like, there's like prison food, right? The egg, when the egg came out in the morning, I was almost sick looking at it, yeah? It came out, it was almost like rubber. You could rip it and it would just be like a rubber egg. So it came out on this tray. There's people looking to say, are you going to eat that, bro? I'm like, yeah, of course I'm eating that, bro. I need to get some sort of calories in, So I'm not giving anyone my food. They can all, go do one. I didn't shower once whilst I was there because I've obviously seen the movies with these US jails. Everyone, even the straight people were gay there. So I was like, fuck this. I'm not even going to shower. So I just sat through there and then I left. And that was that. And I went to the place where they towed it to and I got my car back. I paid for the release. And I realised that I couldn't start my car when I got there. I had another problem. It was like problem after problem. So that's when I started praying. I was like, what is going on here? Why is these things happening? But it wasn't a big issue. It was just an oil leak. And put some oil inside of the car. And then, yeah, everything was good and we drove off. But yeah, I'm not going to that Houston place again. That's like PTSD to me. London lows on ES has been taken out. Absolutely, yeah. We've swept the lows, but our bias still leans towards bearish. So there isn't any trades inside of this first day of macro. So guys, we are going to wait for the second day of macro. So it's going to be 10:45, 11:15. And we will redo our bias when we get to 10:40. Instead of doing it now, we'll redo it once we get to 10:40. So I'll speak to you guys shortly. Alright, yes, my brothers. Hope everyone is doing well. So we're looking at the second day of macro here. And we're currently approaching with a bearish bias. The daily is bearish. The 4 hour is bearish. The hourly is bearish, trading out of this hourly bearish gap. This candle here is currently not yet closed on the hourly time frame. And it closed in 15 minutes. So we assume that this is respected. And even if the hourly trades into this area, then it would still be bearish. Anyway, the 15 minute, if it was bullish, then it would have been neutralized at the high. And then also to the left, we are currently candle closed. Let's take a look. So candle closed above this, and we are currently bullish on the 15 minute towards the next bearish gap or high. In this case, it would be bearish gap. So yeah, 15's bullish. Either way, we've got a bearish bias as of now. So we are looking for shorts. We've had a sweep of previous day high. The 5 minute time frame as of now, it would be neutral. And then if we look to the left, we're trading in a 5 minute bearish gap. So 5 is bearish as well. So that is our set of results, 80% bearish bias. Following a sweep of buy side liquidity. So we're going to look for shorts. The next step is a shift in market structure. It's quite a similar approach to yesterday. We'll see whether we get that. And we'll just look to target a discount of the first AM inside of the second day of macro. So as you can see here, price is swept buy side and we have a bearish bias. We have accumulated, manipulated, and I'm looking for distribution towards London on NQ. Of course, London lows on... Is Milo speaking? My sound is cooked. And the sound's pretty good. I think the majority of you guys can hear me. Pretty sure. As the green circle's going around my name, so I'm Pretty sure you can hear me, yeah. Alright. So you can see here that we have a bullish order block. So our shift in market structure as of now would be below this short-term low. Is exactly what we'd be looking for. And then also on for ES as well, and that's a bullish order block. So if we displace through this low and then have an inverse of this order block paired with a gap, that would be exactly what we're looking for here. Just paste this over to ES. And our draw on liquidity is going to be this point of sell side on both NQ and ES. So we're looking for a draw on this point of sell side, and potentially we might end up targeting this low here, which would be as close to a 2-to-1 as possible. That's only if price gives us that shift in market structure lower from this point. Just curious because we tapped into the 4-hour gap, but it's a large distance. Well, let's take a look. So the 4-hour time frame, we're in the bearish gap, so we're bearish. Simple as that. Previously, we trade into a 4-hour bullish gap, so you'd be bullish as the draw would be higher to the next high or bearish gap. But because this bullish gap overlaps with the bearish gap, that's a neutral bias on the 4-hour. So even if you are trading inside of the bullish gap, then it would be neutral. So right now we are bearish because we're only inside of the bearish fair value gap. Okay, so if we wanted to see a shift in market structure, it can be below this low here. Thoughts on I fair value gap entries after liquidity sweep? I think it is low probability, unless you have other confluences. Obviously, if you sweep liquidity, I'd still like to see a shift in market structure following an overall bias that we've determined, as you can see here. And then an inverse of a fair value gap is just a confluence to that time frame being a bias. So if we look on the hourly time frame and a bullish hourly gap is inversed, then I would see that as a bearish confluence to the next lower bullish gap, but I wouldn't base a trade off a I fair value gap. You can see that we've closed below this bullish order block here, which is now going to be a bearish breaker. We've had a shift in market structure on both NQ and ES, which is good to see. And then we have this fair value gap, which is being created on NQ and ES. So I will look for an entry off this gap. I'm going to run a stop placement at the high. So this stop placement in this case is going to have to be at this level here. So this gap is not part of the displacement. Displacement's from this area, so it's above this candle here. So we're running a 30 handle stop, targeting a 2-to-1. This gives us a 3-to-1, so we're just going to target a basic 2-to-1. And ES did not quite tap the gap, so I'm going to wait for an actual entry because ES didn't actually tap it. It actually opened. So let's see whether we get this entry here. Take this with 18 cons. So either NQ or ES taps the gap, then we'd take it. But the candle opened as ES was flush with the fair value gap, so it hasn't actually traded and tapped the fair value gap. Alright, perfect. So that's my entry. I'll run a stop placement here. Stop placement, I'm running it at this area, 15525. And then I'm seeking a 2-to-1 risk reward for this area here. So I have a draw on sell side as the overall draw for this trade, and also this low, but I'm just looking for a 2-to-1 as this low is at a 3-to-1 risk reward, so it's a little overextended. So with the TP being at this area here, I'm leaving my TP because it's not actually at a point of sell side, therefore it's not at a point where it would create equal lows. I'm running my TP flush at a 2-to-1. There's no point putting it 1 or 2 points above. Because, for example, if we targeted this low or this low, then I'd run my TP. If I wanted this low, I'd run it just above, say, 0.16. So same as yesterday, in regards to taking a trade, we just ensure that we take the right trades. And with this one, we have a bearish bias, a sweep of previous day highs, so a sweep of buy side. Then we've seen that shift in market structure lower on both NQ and ES. We have a fair value gap on both NQ and ES, which is presented. And then we have the order block to the left that got inversed, which is also paired with the gap. So that is a lovely trade to take indeed. It's a very similar scenario to obviously the trade that we took yesterday, where the first candle actually inversed the fair value gap we entered from, and then price ended up creating a bearish order block afterwards, which was pretty interesting yesterday. But in regards to this trade, the only thing that we obviously are now looking at is how can we minimize risk and how can we trail our stops along the way of the trade. So with this first low, the two scenarios that happens here is that either takes out this low, we minimize risk, or price heads to our stop and then we get stopped out. So what we're going to do in this case, from our TP to break even, so that's a bearish order block that just got put in place, which is a confluence to the trade. As you can see that. So 50% is going to be this low. So if we take out this low, this is our point of break even for the trade. Otherwise we don't go break even if we take any other low. So I'll delete the fib, and this low here is going to be our point where we trail our stops to the previous high. So for example, if price trades lower and takes out this low, I'm then going to trail my stops like that to the high. So move your stops at 14875. So that's our first point of trading stops. So you see how we don't go break even just yet, because I want to see the trade push over 50%, and then I would trail my stops to break even. But as of now, we leave our stops at the protected swing high, because this swing high as well also is a bearish order block, so it should not return back to the high. After trading out of the bearish order block, it should see more of an aggressive push lower towards these lows that price is seeking liquidity of, these lows here. So if we look at this low, you can see that just got taken on ES, but there's no point to trail as of now. I want to see that get taken on NQ, and then I'll go break even. Not just yet. Still want to leave and give the trade room to breathe. There's no point or no reason to go break even just yet. I'd rather take a loss than actually get stopped out at break even of a trade that's still valid. So there's no point aggressively going break even as of now. So the point that I am paying attention to is this point of sell side, and I'm also paying attention to that same point on ES. So for example, if ES meets that draw of sell side, then I would take that as my TP, where price has met the objective. But as of now, ES or NQ has not met the objective as of now. So for example, this low here, which has just been put in place, is past 50% of the trade. So if we take out this low, then I trail my stops to break even. Either NQ or ES to take out this short-term low, then that is a point for me to then progress my stops to break even. While we put our stop loss at past entry on NQ, I was headed to stop at... I don't really understand that question, to be honest. While we put our stop loss past the entry, I don't really understand the point that you've made there, because our stop loss isn't past the entry, it's at the protected swing high. If I put it past the entry, I'd put it at, say, this high. That's past the entry, but it's above the entry. I don't know if you misspelt or mistyped that. when you're actually in the trade, there's not really too much to do apart from understanding where you're going to minimize risk, because we understand that this low is a point that we go towards break even, and if it doesn't get taken and it draws higher into the bearish order block, then this is the second point that price would look to then draw lower out of. And if it disrespects these two bullish PD rays with the bearish PD rays, the bearish gap and also the bearish order block, then price will happily come towards my stop. But I'm not going to go towards break even as of now, or even previously after taking this low, as it's not past 50% of the trade. So it's very easy that price comes up towards this gap, takes people out at break even, and then it continues. So now we go break even. So it's completely risk free. So we took that low past 50%, and it's completely a risk free trade. So you could call it an aggressive stop trail, but that is exactly what we are doing here, because we've traded out of that gap. We've taken out that previous low, which is our point of break even. So hopefully that makes sense. So your stops are now at break even. It's a risk-free trade. So the two results obviously as of now is that price obviously continues algorithmically respecting bearish PD rays and draws lower, and respects this bearish order block here, which just got put in place, you can see. So we've just traded up into it. We're either going to respect it or come back towards break even. Hopefully this overall process makes sense to you guys, and it doesn't sound like, you know, gibberish or anything. But the way that I explain this each day, the more times you see me see it's respecting that bearish order block there, which you can see it, so it trades up into it and then it starts to trade lower, so algorithmically bearish, respecting it. Each day when you watch me trade live, the whole point in this is that you get the understanding and you understand the full process to taking a trade, to where if I died, that you could do it yourself, right? Because there you go, starting to push off the bearish order block and accelerate with more aggression lower. So right now we still leave our stops at break even. Actually, stops are going to go to 124.50, so not much of a change, but it's going to go to 124.50. Monitor ES as well at that low, because that would be a point of objective on ES. So we got our stops at 124.50 as of now. Someone said just close past my TPT as well. Well, lovely stuff. Very good stuff. Very proud of that achievement. So yeah, of course, you know, our stops as of now are trailed in 2 or 3 handle profits, so relatively break even. It's trailed at the order block high. So someone said just close past the challenge. Beautiful stuff. I mean, if you pass your challenge, there's no point holding through the trade. You know, you either pass the challenge or you don't. So that's what we're here for. And guys, also make sure, you know, when you pass your funded account, that you then upload it into the certificate section to let everyone know, because everyone's in a different stage in this game. Some people are starting on the eval stage to get funded, and then they're going from funded to payout, or even going from payout to actually scaling up the account. So since yesterday, I've done a few things on the Discord and made sure that you guys are getting everything that you need to know exactly out of it. So inside of the scaling plan, we have the idea on how you can scale up your 50k account and essentially double your income using funded accounts. And then we have the account management section, and then also down below we have the real estate section, which I've done a lot to, and that is me out of the trade there. Okay, so I'm out for a small profit, a couple thousand, and it did not hit the full TP, and that would be the result as of today, guys. So hopefully that makes sense, and that is the trade for today. I won't be trading the lunch macro. I know that obviously it's not exactly a profitable day, I made a couple thousand, and to other people with a 50k account, maybe $50 or whatever. And then also with majority of you on evals, obviously you pass your accounts. So far this week, we've had basically 2 break-even trades, or 1 break-even trade, 1 trade which is plus 0.1 or 0.2R, and then 1 2R trade. So that's the best that we could have got out of this session. Had my first payout last week, then blew the account. You've returned at the perfect time. Absolutely, brother. And it's time that you scale up your accounts and work with multiple prop firms to ensure that it's not just one payout, but you're submitting multiple payouts across multiple different accounts. The edgelord, yeah. I might make this one as trader gets edged, but I don't have any emotion or any attachment to the trade at all. I couldn't care less that it came back to break even. So I'm paying attention to making the right decisions, because that's 100% what separates the difference between someone who turns up each day and is very happy about making money and very happy about their situation if they make money, or they become extremely, full force on their accounts if they lose a trade, right? But if you actually fully don't pay attention to the dollar amount, like fully, you don't want to look at the dollar amount at all, right? And pay attention completely to the fact, are you making the right decisions? Then the money comes. The amount of payouts I've had, I don't need to sit there and say or ask any questions. I just need to ensure that I make the right decisions, so I can ensure that I have the highest win rate possible, which equals to me the most amount of money. Absolutely. Right, so that will be us done for the day. Hope you guys have enjoyed this stream, and I'll speak to everyone tomorrow, Friday, to see how we finish off this this week. So have a great rest of your evening. I'll speak to you guys shortly.